bosses have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They were hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lions gone, New South Wales are 9 down! Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Manners, and it's a solo Manners this week. Mad Manners, so to speak, although you won't be getting any pommy bashing, or maybe a little, but lots of cricket news to get through. Damien couldn't join me this week. Actually, just felt like doing an episode on my own. I was really, had a great chat with Tim Wigmore in the last episode, so if you haven't listened to that, go back and download that episode. And coming up, Jared Kimber will be on next week talking about his new book, The Art of Batting. So that's almost some cricket porn there, talking about batting. So I'll be diving into that one next week. So look, lots of cricket news to get through, but I'm going to start because there's been some movement with the Australian team for the World Test Championship final. Cameron Green smashed 118 not out for Gloucestershire, his third century in his stint with them, and is now secured his spot in the World Test Championship 11 because we know this, because Andrew McDonald did a fairly detailed radio interview on SEN where Damien works with Gerard Whateley. So I've got a few clips here of Andrew McDonald, but we're starting to see how this World Test Championship team is shaping. And I've got to say, after this interview, I'm left with more questions than answers, but we do have some answers. Let's start with this clip of Andrew McDonald on Cameron Green.
Number 4, I think Steve Smith will take that spot now in the form that he's been in, so we can sort of eliminate that discussion. I think he can bat anywhere is the obvious answer. He could be 3, he could be 5, he could be 6, he could open. I think he's got the temperament, he's got the skill set, he's got the defensive play as well. I think the higher up the order you go, your defensive skills are a priority, and he's got all bases covered, plays the short ball well. So
there you go. So Andrew McDonald's saying Green could bat 3, 5 or 6 or opener. So what we do know is that he did say in this interview that Steve Smith is locked in at number 4. I've suggested maybe Smith could move up to number 3 and you slot Green in at number 4, but that is not going to happen. Smith is not moving around, and I don't mind that decision. McDonald talked about how Smith has been in such a good run of form at number 4. That's a lock. But then the rest is up for grabs. So obviously Usman will be the other opener. So we know he's going to open. Smith will be at 4. So we don't know who's going to be the second opener. We don't know who's going to bat at 3. Travis Head is definitely going to play. It's just McDonald seemed to open the door for maybe Head moving around the order. You know, maybe if the selectors don't want to upset the apple cart too much, they could go Khawaja, Constas, Labuschagne, Smith, Green, Head, and then not playing all-rounder, because McDonald flagged in that interview that depending on the conditions would determine the balance of the side, which might make Webster's spot in the side under threat. So look, a lot of pressure with Marnus coming into this run into the World Test Championship final. And here's another question on the team that McDonald was asked by Gerard Whateley.
There's an 11 on a board, but it's got some dashes with names, multiple names in different positions. So as we put the squad together, the first part is to have a 15, give yourself all options. Yeah, we've got the all-rounder in there. Do we need to play the all-rounder depending on the conditions that present? That'll then shuffle the batting order. So we're quite flexible in our approach to that. But yeah, I mean, we've got roughly what we think it might look like.
So they've got roughly what they think it might look like. Geez, I would love to know what that is. So as I said, lots of questions. We know Smith is at 4. Uzi will open, Green will bat somewhere, Head will bat somewhere. So really you've got Inglis, Constas, Labuschagne and Webster fighting it out for those last 2 spots. And at the moment, I'm not too sure what I think will happen. But one thing McDonald said in the interview is that come the West Indies tour, they want to have an opening combination that they think will be the opening combination in the first test of the Ashes. And as Bailey said in his press conference a few weeks ago, the World Test Championship final, they might get a bit funky to try and include some players in there, but don't expect that to be the same team that they start the West Indies Test series with, as they'll have an eye to the Ashes. Look, I'll tell you what I'm thinking and what some of the question marks are. Obviously, Usman's going to open. Then the two main contenders for me to open the batting with Usman are Sam Constas. You've obviously got Marnus Labuschagne, Josh Inglis, and Cameron Green. So that's the four contenders. I'm going to narrow it down to Constas v Inglis because I don't think Marnus is a good option to open with Usman because I think that they're too slow at the top of the order and Australia needs at least one opener who's prepared to counterattack a little bit. And Usman and Marnus bat too similarly, and I just don't think you want that South African bowling order to be able to settle. So I'd probably go with Inglis to open the batting with Usman. I love Sam Constas, but I think they should have played him in Sri Lanka so that he could feel a bit more comfortable at Test cricket. Now I think just dropping him into the World Test Championship final would put a lot of pressure on him. But we saw what he did at the MCG. If they would have picked Constas, I would applaud their bravery and I'd love to see him out there. But I would probably lean on the side of Josh Inglis just because he's shown he can make centuries at Test level already. He's killing it in the IPL and he could be the right-handed option to bat with Usman Khawaja, and Inglis is quite a stroke maker. Look, that's asking a lot for him. He's never opened in Shield cricket. He has batted at the top of the order in white ball cricket. They're very different. But I do think Australia needs someone at the top of the order to play a few shots. And then we get to number 3, which I had as Steve Smith, but McDonald said that's not going to happen. So we could see Cameron Green at number 3. I think that's a really strong possibility because I don't think they'll want to move Head, even though McDonald said they could move Head from 5. He's been so good there. He had such a good summer against India. If I'm the Australian selectors, if I'm using the theory that Smith has done well at 4, then I probably wouldn't move Head either because he's done well at 5. So therefore, you'd leave Marnus out at 3 and you could bat Green there. And he bats in the top of the order at Shield level. You know, he is a classical batter with a good technique. So he certainly has the game for number 3. And also the way he plays the cross-bat shots. He's a very good puller of the ball. That can be very handy against a new ball. And then you got Smith 4, Head 5, and then number 6. Well, this is where Bo Webster could play, or if the conditions at Lords are so green, the selectors feel they don't need an all-rounder and they want to get Marnus in there, then they could drop Head to 6. You could put Green in the middle order somewhere, maybe at 5. I don't think Green batting at 6 makes sense because he's such a patient player. I think you'd want him to bat no lower than 5, and then maybe Webster gets squeezed out if you want to go a bit batter heavy. But I mean, can you guarantee Marnus is Marnus any more chances of scoring runs than Webster? Webster looks so good in his short little stint at Test level. He would be a good option at number 6. So look, that's where they are with the batting order and the lineup for the World Test Championship. Green's third ton has secured his spot. Marnus failed in the one innings in his final match, so unfortunate for him, he wasn't able to put some runs on the board and maybe stake a claim to be in that final 11. In some other news with the Aussies playing over in the county championship, Matt Kuhnemann took his best ever first-class figures of 6 for 53. He was playing with Marnus for Glamorgan, and they beat Middlesex. So great to see Kuhnemann taking wickets, and I've said it before, but he's clearly our number 2 spinner behind Lyon and a genuine another option for Australia. I think I said a couple of weeks ago that, you know, what if Lyon starts the Ashes and the Poms take him apart and he can't keep the run rate down and he's not taking wickets? At what point do you pull the ripcord and maybe bring Kuhnemann in instead of Lyon? So, you know, that's a genuine option for Australia now, whereas for the last few years, they haven't really had a genuine second spinner sort of nipping at the heels of Lyon, which is great. And, we know what a class act Lyon is, but this can only be good for Australian cricket. So, look, that's the World Test Championship 11 power rankings. Green has surged in. McDonald has given some answers. Smith at 4. They want to settle down on the opening combination pretty soon, and Green is going to be in that 11. All right, before I move on, I just got one more clip here from Andrew McDonald talking about a 2-tiered Test cricket system. We've talked about this before, and it was interesting to hear his opinion.
Significant Test days as well. I was 2 tiers of the WTC, and Ireland are also a Test member, Afghanistan. So I think if we want to grow Test cricket, they're equally as important. And there's been some discussion around 2 tiers of the WTC and how it looks, so you don't get these lopsided results. But the more they get exposed to it, back them to improve, the investment goes into it, and I think the game will be stronger for it. But that's up to someone else to decide.
Yeah. Are you a no to a 2-tier system?
Yeah, I'm a no to that. Yeah, I think that you risk a potential downturn. A team gets relegated and another one gets demoted, and then you've got the dollars and cents around that all. So I think that having one system, even though it's a little, there's an inequality of the draw at times, I think you suck that up, and over 4 cycles, you're probably going to get on the better side of it. So therefore, you should qualify at that time. So look at the longer term journey and what it means for Test cricket as a whole, as opposed to this is what we need here and now. And the marquee series are always still going to be there as well. So England are going to play Australia, India are going to play, all of those types of things. But yeah, I don't think 2 tiers would work. I think there's a lot more complication and the unintended consequence around it. Where does it leave the game?
Yeah, interesting comments there from Andrew McDonald. He's not a fan of 2-tier Test cricket at all. Very down on it. So, Michael Vaughan, bad luck. If Andrew McDonald is to make the decision, it's not going to fall in your favour. I can see his point, but I think for 2-tiered Test cricket to work, there needs to be that jeopardy that any side can be relegated, and that is the issue, isn't it? I think McDonald's kind of alluding to that cricket just can't afford India, Australia, or England to drop out of that first tier. So how do you have a 2-tiered Test system with integrity if you sort of implicitly hoping 3 nations don't ever fall out of it? So I can see why he's down on it. I still think it's worth investigating. We spoke about it a lot with Tim Wigmore about the World Test Championship. So I'd say go back and have a listen to that. All right, moving right along from the World Test Championship power rankings. I told you there'd be no pommy bashing, but I was lying because there is a story. There was a story leading into the England v Zimbabwe Test that Brendan McCullum has decided that his English team needs more humility. No kidding, buddy. Oh, wow. How did you come up with that idea? Only took you a few years. And I'm still waiting for the apology after what happened at Lords to the Australian cricket team for calling their spirit of cricket into question. So let's see how his humility really goes when he's down under next summer copping barbs. But here's some quotes from Brendan McCullum. It's not just about what you do on the cricket field. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you interact with the public. It's the ability to be humble and show some humility and not feel out of reach or out of touch with the general population. That's something I'd like to see us improve on. So absolutely, and they have come across as real wankers in the last few years, carrying on that they're saving Test cricket, that they're the first team to bat aggressively. Absolute horse shit. And for him to finally come to this conclusion that maybe they need to be a little more humble, I think it wasn't actually a conclusion that he came to, because Rob Key, the managing director of cricket in England, recently said that some of the interactions and comments by the English cricket team were rubbish during the tour of India earlier this year. So, they've clearly been told from above. This isn't a Brendan McCullum or Ben Stokes thing. This is absolutely not coming from them. This has come from above, and they've told them you've got to be more humble and you've got to improve your image. So I'm yet to give any credit points to Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes. I'd like to see how they behave over the next year or so. And they're only doing this because McCullum knows his reputation is on the line now. I said it with Wigmore, and I'll say it again. This summer against home summer for them against India and then the tour to Australia are crucial for McCullum's reputation. If they get towed up in these series, then he's going to look like a fool and he's going to need to be humble. He's absolutely going to need to be humble and he's going to want the people on his side and the media on his side if they're getting towed up. So I think this is disingenuous. I think this is an order from the top. I don't believe McCullum actually believes this, that they should be more humble. I think McCullum just wants to play golf and win a few games of cricket, but I think he wants to play golf more. And, this is the comment from Ben. This was by Ben Stokes on the Ashes documentary from 2023. The reward for our work isn't what we get, but what we become. And what we've managed to become is a sports team that will live forever in the memory of people who were lucky enough to witness us play cricket. Yeah, that's really humble. So they've got a lot of work to do. I don't buy it, and we'll see what happens. Another huge bit of news. Can you believe this? Ben Stokes, professional athlete who's paid millions to do his job, he's given up alcohol. Oh, my goodness. Can you believe this? There was a whole article where he realised, maybe his rehab is being affected by drinking piss all the time. You're so dumb. What a dumb comment. That really annoyed me when Stokes said that. He's a professional athlete. Most professional athletes shouldn't be drinking that much. I'm not saying never have a drink, never have a good time. But if he's going, I need to stop drinking so I can do what I do, and it's such a big thing, give up your bloody sport. I'm sorry, give up your sport. If you're a professional athlete and you actually think, then I was like, this is a quote, okay, I need to start changing what I do. I don't think I'll ever be completely sober, but I've not had a drink since 2nd of January. 2nd of January, not until I finish my injury rehab and get back on the field. Why do it then? I mean, I actually applaud this. Like, good on him for giving up the drink. Like, people battle with addiction all the time, and maybe he has real issues with alcohol. But I have a real issue with a professional athlete who's getting paid millions of dollars going, look at this big thing I've done. I've given up alcohol. You idiot. I really did bash the ponds. All right. So moving on. Oh yeah, sorry. His last comment was, but I haven't got any interest in stopping. So I think that's not playing cricket. So he wants to keep playing cricket. So that's good. Zimbabwe result. So yeah, England beat Zimbabwe in a 3-day test match by an innings and 45 runs. Shoaib Bashir was the player of the match for England with 9 wickets. It was a very comprehensive win by England. They made 6 for 565, declared 3 centurions, and then bowled Zimbabwe out for 265 and 255. But I think the incredible story from that. Just backing up a bit. I think it's great that Zimbabwe played Test cricket. I think those sort of games are still really worthwhile. You can see why it was scheduled as a 4-day game because it finished in 3. So I think they got that all right. And I think, it's fantastic to see Zimbabwe playing Test cricket. There's been some publicity around how Zimbabwe sort of being paid by England to go over there. So rather than it being used to be in a sort of trade system where Zimbabwe might tour England and then England would promise to go there and play some 1-day games or something, and they would make some money when England toured there. But this time Zimbabwe being paid to play, and I think it's a really good system. And I think if the big 3 Test nations want to see Test cricket thrive, this might be a good way of getting around some of the financial difficulties. You could actually, pay for smaller nations that can't afford it to tour your country, give them experience. They can get a slice of the pie and it grows cricket in that country. The amazing thing is that Sikandar Raza, who was playing in the Test match in Nottingham, got on a plane after it finished, pretty much as soon as it finished, flew to Lahore in Pakistan to play in the PSL final where Lahore won it. He was in the winning team and he made a good contribution with the bat to that team winning. But he was flying there basically leading up to the game. He wasn't there all day. And then he was just at the airport when the toss was done. So he wasn't even in the ground. And then they got him to the ground and he was there to play in a PSL final win. I mean, that's just an incredible story. And it just shows how cricket is, that he's gone from England, Nottingham, and basically within not that long he's playing in a PSL final in the subcontinent. Yeah, so the Lahore Qualanders beat the Quetta Gladiators. Lahore finished fourth, so they won 3 in a row to win the title. And Raza made 22 off just 7 balls with 2 4s and 2 6s. So worth getting on that plane. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back to talk about the new Indian Test skipper. And we've got lots of correspondence from the listeners. You're listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Menners, and lots of cricket news to get through. I'm all on my lonesome this week. So India have announced their new Test skipper. Shubman Gill will be the Test skipper, replacing Rohit Sharma. He's played 32 Test matches and has scored 1,893 runs at an average of 35, and he's 25 years old. And I think he's got a very tough job ahead of him for a number of reasons. Not only because captaining India is a job with so much pressure on it all the time, but add to that, India are going through a real generational change. They've lost Ravi Ashwin, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. They've all retired in the last 3 Test matches. Mohammad Shami might not come back to Test cricket. So there's a lot of... Shubman has to build a new team, and he's a young player, so he might be able to. So Shami dropped for the Test tour of England. So yeah, he might be able to, mold the team in his image, but it's going to be really tough because they've got a tour of England, and then after that, if they don't win in England, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. So look, a lot ahead for Gill. The other one, West Indies have appointed a new Test skipper, Roston Chase. This is an interesting one. Been dropped from the Test side for a couple of years, but has come in as like a specialist captain, like Bob Simpson or Mike Brealey. So let's see how he goes. Staying on the subcontinent, the IPL, we're almost at the finals. The 4 teams in the top 4 are RCB, Punjab Kings, and they've secured 1 and 2, so they get a double chance. Then you've got Gujarat and the Mumbai Indians in the 3rd and 4th spot. So I have found the IPL a little challenging in the last couple of weeks, mainly because there's been so many dead rubbers. And I've spoken about it many times. This format's just not working. You can't have the last 3 weeks of the tournament where all that's really happening is a couple of teams fighting for a spot and some teams fighting for a double chance. Look, I know it's a big deal to finish 1 or 2 and getting that double chance if you're that team, but it's not the greatest amount of jeopardy for a viewer. So I think they need to tweak the format so this doesn't happen because just too many dead rubbers. Some local news, Josh Hazlewood will link up with the RCB squad for the finals. Mitch Marsh made a century during the week, 117 versus Gujarat. So he's for Lucknow Super Giants. So Marsh has had a great IPL. He's our T20 captain, and this is really good because we need him in form leading into the T20 World Cup that's being played in India next week. And from a local point of view as well, can Ricky Ponting do an Ange Postecoglou and take the Punjab Kings to the title? They've finished in the top 2. As I'm recording this, the top 4 isn't. There's still a couple of games to go, so I don't want to. I'm not sure exactly how the order will finish, but Punjab are in the top 2, and Punter has a chance to do an Ange Postecoglou and take them to the title. Or another story to look out for is can RCB do a Spurs and actually win a title for a change? RCB perennial finalists. Can Josh Hazlewood bowl RCB to victory and win their first ever IPL title? I mean, there's been so many amazing wins this year in all sorts of sport that maybe this could be RCB's year. One more thing, and I don't want to get cancelled for this, Indian fans. I'm kind of sick of MS Dhoni, and I'm kind of sick of him playing this game about will he or won't he play. I know he's very honest. He keeps saying, I'll see how I feel next year. But at some point, you've just, like Chennai haven't made the finals this year. They were pretty ordinary all IPL. He's holding that team back. He's being selfish. He needs to just say, I'm done, move on from me, build a new team, sayonara. That's what Dhoni needs to say. Or Chennai needs to say, sayonara, bye. And I know everybody loves MS Dhoni and they love seeing him play. He's a rock star. But for me, do what Ian Chappell said. Go now and leave them wanting a little more. Just a little more. You know, last thing we want to see is MS Dhoni being wheeled out in the wheelchair to stand behind the stumps. And MS, can you speak up a bit? So, look, it's just ridiculous. This is ego gone crazy. And I know MS Dhoni's not a huge ego guy, apparently, but someone's just got to tap him on the shoulder and say, bye. All right, last thing is we followed this story pretty closely on the podcast, but Usman Khawaja has agreed to stay with Queensland, as was reported by Robert Craddock in the Courier Mail. So Khawaja had a verbal stoush in the media with Joe Dawes, has decided to stay in Queensland, which makes sense because this will most likely be his last year of first-class cricket. He's probably only going to play a couple of games for Queensland before the Test series and then pull the pin on his season. So I would say this is the right move for him. The option would have been, you know, he still lives in Queensland, but he flies to another state to play a couple of Shield games, which doesn't do it for anybody. So I'm glad he's staying with Queensland for his last first-class season. All right, now we're going to get into listener questions. We've got comments, questions, all sorts of stuff to get through. All right, so got a question here from Melvin in Yorkshire. Hi, Menners and Damien. Damien's not here. Have just had 2 days at Headingley for the county championship game versus Nottinghamshire. Yorkshire have now lost Bairstow, the county captain, who was jetted off to the IPL with the Mumbai Indians, basically to replace Will Jacks. The ECB have no objections certificate policy that to some degree safeguards the English team from losing players to the various franchise leagues, although in effect we are really only talking about the IPL. Do you think we are approaching a point where counties and state sides are going to have to introduce their own version of the NOC to protect them from similar situations to Yorkshire, where basically the captain has cleared off to the IPL? And he has said that to some extent this is a one-off situation due to the revised schedule of the IPL, but it is still making a mockery of the domestic game in England, and he's sent in a picture of him looking for Bairstow on the field. So that's from Mel, our Yorkshire correspondent. And look, I'm not sure who Bairstow is contracted to, whether it's the ECB or the county team at the moment. But, you know, we have this issue in Australia as well. And as my understanding is, whether you're contracted to a state side or a county side, the NOC is still given by the ECB or Cricket Australia. Mel, I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you, but it's not going to change. Unfortunately, there's just nothing anybody can do about it. Money makes the world go round. There's no way playing in the county championship is going to be comparable earnings to playing for Mumbai in the IPL. And Bairstow just has to do what's going to put the most bucks on the table for him, the most food on the table for his family. And this is never going to change. I can never see a situation where county teams or state sides stop players from going and doing that. Because in the end, unfortunately, the county sides and the state sides will lose out because these players will say, okay, well, bugger it. I'll just go on the T20 circuit where I can make as much money and don't have to worry about any of this stuff. So unfortunately, I think it's just the situation we're in at the moment, and which is why, you know, they talk about having windows for T20 competitions and windows for Test cricket to try and stop this bleed where players are, I just talked about a player leaving a Test match and playing in the PSL only hours later. So I have a lot of sympathy, but bad news, Mel. I just don't think it's going to change. And, you know, for county teams and state sides in Australia, I know they get compensated. You know, I know here 10% of any Australian players' earnings in the IPL go to the board, and that probably filters down to state level. But, yeah, it's regrettable, but money talks, unfortunately. And playing for Yorkshire and playing for Mumbai, although, you know, I think Yorkshire has this rich history, it just is not going to be able to compete with the wages. Said Sams. Hi, Manners. What are your thoughts on the New South Wales men's squad for 25-26? Happy that they've made the necessary tough calls on some veterans. Thank you for the email, ZZ Sams. The message on Twitter, sorry. Yeah, look, I am very, very happy with that. I think they probably have been a bit slow to move a few veterans on. You know, Moses Enriquez, Daniel Hughes, Jackson Birds moved back down south. So I think it was the right call. Whether it was made swiftly enough, I'm not sure. And all I've heard is, and I've talked about this on before on the podcast, is that perhaps things haven't been as healthy behind the scenes in the New South Wales team as they could have been. Greg Shippard's a fantastic coach. Enriquez was the captain. But, yeah, I'm just not sure how the environment has been in that team. Certainly hasn't been a toxic or a bad environment, but there's good environments. There's environments that are conducive to winning, and I'm just not sure that that team has had it in the last couple of years. So I think moving on from some veterans, bringing in some young players and building a new culture is the way to go. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. Mitchell Hall, comment, excellent interview and questions. That was about the interview with Tim Wigmore about saving Test cricket. And finally, Gavin in Philly, he's left a nice review from on the US iTunes. So Gavin is an expat Aussie living in Philadelphia. And when this show started, you know, one of the big listener bases, and we've still got a few expats, thinking of you, Rowdy, over there. I'm not going to say where you are in case you don't want me to dox you, but we've got a lot of, listeners that are expats, and, podcasts are a great way of keeping up with the sport if you are living overseas. So thanks, Gavin, for leaving that review. We've got some T-shirts on the way, and so we're going to be doing some giveaways soon of those T-shirts, and really looking forward to getting those out there. All right, thanks everybody for tuning into Cricket Unfiltered this week. I guess the big news was Andrew McDonald's comments around the World Test Championship 11. Some clarity there in terms of the makeup, but it's still a few unanswered questions heading into that Lord's final, which is it's basically under 2 weeks away now. So it's going to be here before we know it. I'm going to be doing podcasts, I think, every night after the play finishes. I don't know how, but I'm going to do my best. And really looking forward to it. Remember, rate and review the podcast, and tune in next week with the interview with Jared Kimber.